Accountability. Um, Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, there is a story where the king or the emperor tested Sun Tzu's military prowess by challenging him to train like 100 and some odd concubines to um, to be soldiers. So Sun Tzu got the concubines. He chose like one of the favored ones to lead um, the, the army of concubines, and he started training them. And because they're girls, they're women, they're not serious about that stuff, so they started laughing and giggling and whatnot. And what and Sun Tzu killed the leader in front of all of them, and he said this. I'm paraphrasing because I haven't read it in a while. The Art of War. It's in The Art of War. Sun Tzu's Art of War. He says something along the lines: I gave clear and concise instructions. If my instructions were not clear or concise, I needed to be killed because I didn't communicate correctly. However, I gave clear and concise communication. And if the leader failed to execute those instructions, then that person should be killed or executed, or removed, basically. And in their time, they just kill them. So, and that's just a oversimplified paraphrase. He basically said, if the leader didn't understand the instructions, they should have communicated. They didn't understand it, so it could have been given more clearly. But the short end of the story is, after that leader was removed, another leader was replaced, the dead one, and he was able to successfully train the concubines into a military force. And I tell that story in this case because it is important. Let me see here. It is important in that accountability is something we do not, MGTOW might overlook. Men in MGTOW, men going your own way, we might overlook. Now, we have gotten fed up, and we've gone our own way, we're doing our own path in the 7 healths, not just in relationships, but all 7 healths. But while we're going our own way, we're still developing ourselves, growing, and possibly considering a relationship in the future. In some cases, we may just be gone completely, and it's no longer important. And as far as being in a relationship, and that's all well, and that's fine too. But as we go our own way, we still need to hold ourselves accountable, just as much as we hold women accountable. And the Sun Tzu story that I mentioned, the blame, I shouldn't say blame, but the accountability falls solely on the man. As leaders, we are the leaders of the world. Women supposed to be following the men. We lead the women. So, if our instructions is not clear and concise, where these women can follow, and we do not hold these women accountable, then the blame is on us. The fault is completely on us as men. Now, some might argue, and I've heard the argument, that men going your own way is a coward's way out. But the reality is, it's really not a coward's way out. It only becomes a coward's way out, in my opinion, is if you go your own way out of fear and never consider getting back into relationships again, in the sense that you're not happy, you don't want to be alone. Some people are perfectly fine being alone and realize that a relationship is not that important, so they don't need to seek it out, and that's perfectly fine. But can be considered a coward's way out, you know, um, if one does not work on oneself nor hold himself accountable and address the things where we have failed as men, move forward and regroup. So I hope that makes some sense. It's a little generalized. I have mentioned here and there in different videos about, um, like little hints on accountability, but this video is more direct and to the point. So, as leaders of the human race, it is our job to hold women accountable. More importantly, we are held at a higher standards of accountability because as leaders, when things fail, it's one of two reasons. We did not convey clear and concise instructions, meaning we don't tell the woman what we expect. All right, and I'm not saying being rude or disrespectful or any of those things, because a lot of women will probably jump on here and start talking about, well, I did dogs and all that stuff. No, we're not talking about those type of things. Just be clear and concise in your leadership skills, in your leadership, what you expect from the relationship. And accountability. Do we hold the woman accountable for the stuff, or do we let stuff slide? Or we don't hold ourselves accountable for letting things slide, where it gets to the point that the relationship basically falls apart. Because a lot of that stuff can be avoided if we hold each other accountable in the beginning of a relationship. There are certain things women expect from men, and there are certain things that men expect from women. But in the beginning of the relationship, we let stuff slide because of the sense gratification part, which I mentioned in another video. We don't want to be alone, so we're gonna put up with certain things so we could get some sex or whatever, company, whatever it is, or be seen with this particular people by friends and family. So you get an ego trip off that. You get some praise, whatever it is, and it leads down the path to destruction in the relationship. And then you have men going your own way because we didn't hold ourselves accountable nor the woman accountable. In some situations, being clear and concise, you can do that, but if you don't hold yourself accountable, you're basically simping out. And I am guilty of that too. I've simped out before, but I grew a brain real quickly. I say, hey, that's, I ain't living no miserable life, just for some sex or, some, company. I don't need it. So, so don't think it's just you, you just don't simp out. You got to know what you want, and you stand your ground on what you want. And if that particular woman cannot deliver, move on. One of the things that we tend to do as well is like we hold on to this one relationship while looking for another, and a lot of times it's difficult to navigate things like that too, because a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So you have this miserable relationship at home, but it seems to be worth more than having two women out there that you're not sure you can get, or you will get. You can shoot your load or whatever you ask, and you get shut down. So you hold on to this one miserable relationship rather than just letting it go altogether, and then you're totally free to focus on yourself, self-growth, and pursuing other relationships. And you'll be much happier doing that. So accountability. Hold yourself accountable. Men, you are leaders of your relationship. You're leaders of the woman. Lead. And if she doesn't want to be led by you, move on. And that's what MGTOW is about. You moving on, You know your worth, you know yourself, you're leading, you're giving clear and concise information, you're doing your part as a leader of protecting and providing. And she chose not to listen to you, therefore you have to get rid of her. And not necessarily kill her, punch her in the face, or all that stuff. Sun Tzu killed the concubine because she refused to follow his instructions, and therefore all the other concubines did not follow his instructions, so he killed her. In our situation, we can't just kill nobody, and that in all regard, that's kind of savage, in my opinion. We don't live in those times. And if you follow some of the Eastern religious philosophies, you will realize that killing this for the, even in this situation to prove a point, is really not the way to go from a religious or spiritual perspective. So the only other way to get rid of somebody is to walk away from them, break up, whatever you call it, if they refuse to submit to your leadership. And because everybody follows some kind of leadership, you go to work, you have a boss above you, you have the company's vision that you have to submit to and build, work towards achieving that vision. So, and women are submitting to their bosses, to their companies they work for, to fulfill their vision, those companies' vision, but they're refusing to follow your leadership to fulfill the vision you have for your family. And when you're in a situation like that, you can always refer to how they're working, fulfilling another man's vision or company's vision. They should also submit to fulfilling the vision of your family. As long as your message is clear and concise, it should not be an issue. And if for some reason it is clear and concise and it is an issue, she's not a woman for you. And it's very simple to this, to figure that out and move on. Just don't simp out and say, well, I'll stick it out and see. Because a lot of times people do not change unless they want change or they're forced to change. Forced change usually comes with some disgruntled behavior, and that takes a longer time to actually for a person to really come around. People who want to change, they identify the issues, they change, and that makes a quicker, smoother transition. It's called first order change. Second order change is more gradual. In business, if you use first order change, it's more abrupt, it's harsh, it's kind of violent in a way. Second order change is gradual. But in relationship, you would want someone to realize, hey, this needs to change, and do more of a first order change, and that takes time, in the mind. First order change in the mind, in mindset, and second order change in behavior, where it becomes a lifestyle. If you have any questions, ask it in the comment section down below. Please subscribe. It gives me the motivation to keep doing these videos. Share it if you think it's important, and you'll have a good day.